Today we will consider the topic, the shepherd who finds. Our scripture reading tonight, Psalm 23 verse 1. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Once upon a time in a quiet village nestled in the hills, there lived a young boy named Eli. Eli had always been curious. He loved to explore the meadows, the woods, and the winding paths that crisscrossed the hillsides near his home. His parents, though concerned about his wandering, trusted that he knew where he was going. But one day as he wandered further than usual, the fog rolled in. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the land, and soon Eli found himself lost. The path he'd been following seemed to disappear, and the familiar trees became unrecognizable. The air felt colder, and a wave of panic began to rise in his chest. The chirping of the birds and the rustling of leaves were replaced with an eerie silence. He called out for help, but the only sound he heard was the wind whispering through the trees. He was alone, and the weight of fear pressed heavily upon him. The shepherd's call. As Eli continued to wander, his thoughts grew darker. He wondered if he would ever find his way home. But then from a distance he heard a soft, calm voice, almost like a melody. "Eli, are you lost?" Eli froze, unsure of what to do. The voice was gentle and kind, but how could anyone know his name? He turned around and saw a figure approaching through the mist, a shepherd with a staff in hand and a warm, reassuring smile on his face. The shepherd had a deep, steady voice that seemed to lift the fog in Eli's heart. "I've been searching for you," he said, "and I will not leave you until I bring you to safety." Eli looked up at the shepherd, unsure of what to feel. How could this man, who was just a stranger to him, know he was lost? The shepherd, sensing his unease, knelt down and spoke gently. "I know these hills better than anyone. I have walked them for many years. It is my job to look after the sheep and make sure they are safe, just as I will make sure you are safe too." Eli, feeling the warmth of the shepherd's presence, found himself trusting him despite the fear he had felt moments before. "But I was so scared," Eli admitted, his voice trembling. The shepherd nodded. "It is okay to be afraid, little one. We all feel that way sometimes when we are lost, but fear will always fade when you have someone who cares for you. You are never truly lost when you are in my care." The journey back with that, the shepherd picked Eli up, gently placing him on his shoulders. "I will carry you to safety," he said. "You don't need to be afraid anymore." As the shepherd carried Eli, the boy began to relax. He watched as the familiar hillsides appeared through the mist, and slowly the sun began to rise again. The shepherd's pace was steady, never rushing, and Eli could feel the comfort of knowing that he was being cared for. He didn't have to do anything except trust. Along the way, the shepherd shared stories of the hills, the paths he had walked countless times, the animals he had tended to, and the quiet peace that came with knowing the land like the back of his hand. The more they walked, the more Eli began to understand something very important. The shepherd wasn't just carrying him home because he had no other choice. He was carrying him because he wanted to. He took joy in keeping Eli safe. Safe at home. Finally, after what seemed like hours but also felt like the blink of an eye, Eli saw the familiar outline of his home in the distance. His parents had been searching for him too, but they were still far off in the other direction. The shepherd gently lowered him to the ground. "I'm here," Eli said, his heart full of gratitude. The shepherd smiled down at him. "I told you I would find you. You were never truly lost, not while I was looking for you." He gave Eli a comforting hug and began to walk away, his figure gradually blending into the morning light. But before the shepherd disappeared into the mist, Eli called out, "Thank you. I won't be afraid again. I know you'll always be there if I need you." The shepherd turned and looked back, his eyes kind. "Whenever you feel lost, remember that I am always near, and whenever you need help, I'll be there to guide you home. Just trust and follow." Reflection. As Eli watched the shepherd walk away, he reflected on the journey. He realized that, although he had wandered far and felt lost, he had never truly been alone. The shepherd had been searching for him from the very beginning. Eli's parents arrived soon after, and they embraced him tightly. They were thankful to have him back. But Eli knew that the shepherd had given him more than just safety. The shepherd had shown him something deeper, a kind of peace that could only come from knowing that someone would always care, would always protect, and would always guide him, no matter how lost he felt. Eli later learned that the shepherd was not just someone who tended to the sheep on the hillside. He was known as the Good Shepherd, someone who cared deeply for each and every one of his flock, never abandoning them, always seeking to bring them back to safety. The words of Psalm 23 echoed in Eli's heart. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Eli came to understand that God, like the shepherd, would always be there for him, guiding him through life's ups and downs. No matter how lost he might feel in this world, God would never let him go. Application and call to trust. Think about your own life, just for a moment. Have you ever felt lost, overwhelmed, or uncertain about your next step? Have you ever found yourself standing at the edge of fear, not knowing which way to turn? The good news, my friends, is that we have a shepherd who will never leave us. Jesus, our good shepherd, promises to walk with us, to carry us when we cannot go on. And even when we are far from home, he will seek us out, just like the shepherd who searched for Eli. We are not forgotten. We are not beyond his reach. Whenever you are afraid, remember the story of the shepherd and the lost child. Trust that the Lord, your shepherd, will find you and carry you through. You are never truly lost when you place your trust in him. Reflection. Take a moment now to reflect on where you might need guidance or reassurance in your own life. Maybe there is a situation or decision you are struggling with. Know that you do not walk alone. The Lord, your shepherd, is always by your side. Would you like to take a moment now to pray, asking God to guide you in the areas where you feel lost, trusting that he will find you and lead you home?